Hey everybody, we're just waiting on quorum. We've got Dawn, we've got Nicole, we've got Phil. Hi everybody. Becky Combs is here. We need one more to make quorum.
This might be too much light for you.
It's all okay.
Where are you?
I hadn't gotten my camera to come up yet. There I am.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi Dawn.
Hello.
Oh, my volume must be
Like
on.
that one, or do you like my light?
There.
Oh, less light's probably better. Good, thank you.
Nicole. Hi Phil.
Got to get my notepad.
I just got a note from Colleen and she's having a hard time getting on. I'm gonna send her a link again.
Okay, there's Mary Elizabeth. I'll set her as a panelist. Hi Mary Elizabeth, and here's Lori. Set her as a panelist. Hi Lori, the whole gang's here.
Let's see.
Good morning.
Right, well, we've got quorum. So if you wanted to call the meeting to order, you could, or we could wait a couple minutes and see if Colleen is able to get on.
She's working on it right now, so she should be. But yeah, if you wanted to get started, we can.
Phil, if you're speaking, I think you're still on mute.
Now can you hear me? Okay, great. All right. So I will call roll call in the order that appear on our screen currently. So John Hudson,
Here.
Nicole Marisi,
Here.
Bill McDuffie is here, Mary Elizabeth Kofer,
Here.
Lori Mills. Up, you're muted. Up, maybe. Lori.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I am here.
Okay, great. So,
Colleen Preheim's here too.
okay, great. So we're all present. The first order of business is public comments. So if there are anybody who want to make public comments, then now is their time.
Bill, we've got Mr. Walters. He's raised his hand. Mr. Walters, I'm going to unmute you. You can now unmute yourself and address the commission.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Gosh, thank you all for your service to our community. I haven't seen one of these meetings in a while, but I just wanted to quickly mention an issue that some of us at the park noticed. The fences along the kind of multi-use park area that's baseball fields and dogs go there, and it's kind of the bigger 2 baseball fields. There's some gates that are a little out of repair and could really use adjustment. And my understanding is we have volunteers that are ready to sort of fund the improvements, but they just need permission perhaps from you all. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. It'd be great if they could get that permission.
Are you able to state your name for the record?
Oh, sure. Brad Walters, 2702 Rollingwood Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, thank you.
Bill, we have Steve Frank.
Okay, great.
Oops. Okay. Sorry, Steve, I muted you accidentally. You can unmute yourself.
All right, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So this is Steve Frank with Western Hills Girls Softball. I think, you know what, I guess for Gates, you know, I'm up there, I was, oh, excuse me. I was up there yesterday and it looked like the one gate, excuse me. Oh man. Sorry. Field that you mentioned had been kind of permanently closed, the little squiggly gate between the 2 batting cages. I think
Right.
someone closed that one, had put something there to close it permanently. And then
Well,
I
that
know
was because the latch broke. I went
Okay.
up this morning and the metal kind of makeshift thing that people were using to close it, which never really worked, was completely broken. So
Okay.
there was no way to close that gate.
and then I didn't know, I know on the center field, the one between center field and closer to where most people hang out. I had talked to David, the city works person, about he was going to look into trying to get that gap closer so the hinge doesn't come undone as much. I did not look at that one personally to see if he had had a chance to do that yet or not. So those were the 2 I kind of knew about, but I'm receptive to, you know, putting on a new type of latch or anything on that one we discussed.
Well, I think the one would be good if we could just kind of reset posts and perhaps get something to where it could actually be a hinged latch that goes up and down the way the other ones are. And then I know that they have that L connection on there, and that was designed to prevent bicycles from coming in and out of the gate. That was at the time that that was designed, it's my understanding from council members that that was because they used to lock the larger gates that they used to bring in lawnmowers and that type of thing, and now those aren't locked. So that's why it was designed that way, and there's really no reason to have the kind of L configuration anymore. So if that could be taken out and just replaced with a gate that, you know, swings completely in either direction and could be closed, that would be great. And as other people have indicated, people are willing to donate and make sure that that happens. That wouldn't necessarily have to come out of Western Hills budget or the city of Rolling Wood's budget. Yeah.
Well, just, yeah, let me know how we can help. I know as part of capital improvements, we will be doing the fencing repairs. I don't think that's going to happen, you know, anytime soon. It will be within our 12-month period per the lease.
Right. Sure.
But if I can help with the gates or whatever, you know, just let me know how we can assist.
Well, I'd love to meet you up there sometime. The other one that David is addressing, that post is kind of no longer perpendicular either. So the one that holds the hinges might also need to be reset. That, you know, so it's a little bit extensive. Maybe there's an easy way to do it, but it looks like it could be somewhat extensive.
Okay.
I'm available most any time to meet you up there. I'd love to walk the fields. We've been trying to keep the fencing and everything in good repair as best we can in the meantime, but there were several areas where it's kind of pulling away and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's been for a while. So,
Okay.
but I'd love to meet you up there.
So the
Yeah.
area Brad is asking about, are those being addressed? And on somebody's radar?
Those are the same gates that I think Steve is talking about. And then there's fencing down near the bottom that isn't really meeting. And there's a whole nother section where the top is pulling away. So there's fencing issues. The fencing's old, but
So he's talking about the area that we addressed in our walkthrough last month? It's that same area we identified?
yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the areas. I think we talked at that time, wasn't it at the top of the, there was a big section that was pulling away at the top?
It was at the bottom as well. It was it was near where those bikes go through and we're supposed to be kept out.
Do we have a time? Do we have
Kind of
a date?
adjacent to the parking lot.
Yeah.
Do we have a proposed date as to when these repairs could be fixed? Just for Mr. Walters, just to kind of put his mind at ease.
Yeah, and it's not volunteers that would fix this, correct? This would be done professionally.
I agree.
Oh, sure.
I think that we've had a commitment that it should be done, and I appreciate that volunteers are willing, but I think it's our responsibility to get this done.
No, I think volunteers are willing to put up the funding. Like they're willing to pay for it, me included. I'm one of the volunteers that's willing to put forth funds if that's the stop issue to it. But there are people who are willing to contribute toward it. But yes, it would be professionally done, either by David or some professional fencing. Yeah, it's not just going to be, it wouldn't be anything like that. And it would also absolutely, it is under the purvey of Western Hills. So it would need to be coordinated with them before anything can move forward.
I don't understand why they can't pay for it. I don't understand why volunteers have to pay for it.
Well, they could. I mean, it's up to them. But as Steve said, they've got 12 months to make a set amount of capital improvements. This could fall under that 12
Exactly.
months. But, you know, there's a time frame, you know. So.
Well, what if we were able to secure the funding for it, but then Western Hills would then reimburse whomever funded it if it's within that 12-month period? And then do we have a date or proposal of how long it would take to install and fix this?
I think it could be installed and fixed rather quickly, but I mean,
Hey,
I
Team,
would
I
want
think
to have some control over the fund, of the amount, that type
Team.
of thing. But yeah, sure.
Team, we're way off topic. We're not supposed to be specifically addressing operations issues during public comment because the public hasn't been notified that you're going to have this discussion. So
Okay.
what I'd like to do is take it offline. Steve, David, and Phil, we can all get together and make sure it's on somebody's radar to get it fixed.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Amber.
Thanks, Amber.
All right. So I guess the reason why is I wanted to just give you a brief update on fall season. Both softball and Little League is planning to do a season in fall. We both had a good amount of registrations. I know softball had much more registrations this fall than even last fall. So I believe it's been shown that parents want to get their kids out and involved. And so we will have 5 teams. Softball will have 5 teams playing this fall, 8U, 3, 14U. Little League will have, evidently they have their littler kids playing up there in the fall. So just letting you know, you will start to see, I think some teams are starting to practice this week, but it'll start pretty much in earnest next week. Everybody, all the teams will be practicing. First games will be Saturday, September 12th. And the season will go through November 14th. And that's just kind of the updates. Both boards have put together a pretty decent list of safety protocols that we feel meet the mandate for youth sport. And we're evidently going to be trying our best to keep the kids as safe as possible, social distancing, using the dugout as limited as possible, provide hand sanitizer, disinfect. We have disinfectant spray that will be trying to clean down everything. So, but I think it was more, if you guys had any comments or questions that need to be answered, I was here if that can be done through public comment. But just give you a brief update on fall.
Okay, great.
Do you have a proposed practice schedule of when the park would be used by teams so we could notify the community?
Yeah, so softball, I just finalized that. I think my home game schedule is almost set, but my practice schedule just got set yesterday. I will email that up to Amber and Ashley to have, and then they can, and that's usually what I've done. Once I get everything finalized, I email it to them, and then they will distribute how they see fit or publicize it, I guess, how they see fit. One other thing I did want to mention, and I would need help. I might need to work with Amber on this. Is I was discussing with Little League people, and our board thought it might be a good idea to, at least this season, and hopefully leave up, but temporarily post signs on social distancing around the bleacher areas, the areas where most spectators congregate. And I know Rollingwood's really against signage and stuff. So I might need your help, Amber, if I can get that to City Council on their agenda, maybe, to see if they would be okay with that.
Would we be able to put maybe like an X on certain areas of the bleachers to encourage at least a visual, so it's not a big sign, but like a lot of the stores do this, making social distancing aware, but not necessarily having to put signs up if for some reason we cannot.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, I know we have told our parents to not use the bleachers as much as possible and to bring your own chairs and spread out down the sidelines and use, sit behind the outfield fences. I mean, those were the areas we were trying to suggest to our parents of, Yeah, because the bleachers are so small in the first place. Like, it's like one family can fit on there, I think, and then you would, ruin social distancing. So I'm hoping, yeah, our coach, we're going to be actively involved in trying to publicly tell them to safe social distance. But, I just know most of the tournaments I've gone to with my daughter this summer, they have signs kind of everywhere reminding people. But I'm just bringing it up as a potential helper, but I understand if we can't put them up.
All right.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think if we don't have any other public comments, then we will continue on.
No other hands are raised.
Okay, great. All right, our next item is discussion and possible action items on the minutes for July 7th of the Park Commission. And before we get started with that, I wanted to make a long overdue correction. On the minutes of 6/23/2020, there was mention that I indicated that the current lease with Western Hills was a grave disservice. If that's what I stated, that was not what I intended. What I intended to make clear is the way in which the lease was executed was, I thought, a disservice. So I just wanted to put that out before we go on to the minutes of July the 7th, so that is noted, that I wanted to clear that up. So other than that, if there's anything that anybody wants to say about the July 7th minutes, now is the time.
I move that we approve the minutes of July 7th.
Great. We hear a second. Anybody? Second? All right, Don second. So Mary Elizabeth
Yes.
made a motion, Don second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Raise a hand or something.
I
Sorry. Okay, everybody's good. So the motion passes to approve the minutes.
So
All right.
Colleen's still not visible.
I'm
Is there any
having,
way we can get her?
yeah, no, so you're seeing that little circling thing that I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
having a lot of technical problems this morning. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we remembered you were here.
No, I'm totally here. I'm all in. You're just gonna have to tolerate looking at that circle instead of my lovely face this morning. Sorry.
Might be some of our internet issues that we have that keep being brought up. So now we are on to regular agenda items, and we have discussion and presentation by Becky Combs in regards to the food forest and community garden. So Becky,
Okay.
it's all yours.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Becky Combs, 12 North Peak Road, and I'm the Rollingwood Community Education Garden treasurer. And I wanted to also let you know that Glenn Starnes, who is the garden caretaker, I think is also listening in, attending somehow. So he may have some comments too. I guess in your packet, there's kind of a short, brief history of the garden. And I'd understood that there were a lot of questions on the garden and the food forest. So I tried to condense 10 years worth of history basically into one page, kind of to give everybody an idea of how it started and kind of bring people up to date. on what we have done. And I guess I in condensing it, I see that I left out some things I thought were in there, but on our future plans. But anyway, I guess I wanted to make sure that you guys kind of understood how we operated and why we have how our funds are handled, and that we do not cost the city anything. We have a line item in the budget I talked about that is basically just, in the city budget, that is just a pass through that just holds our funds when we have donations or we pay bills. Does anybody have any questions on the financial part and how it works with Abel, your finance director?
Becky, this is Mary Elizabeth. I thought you made it very clear. You could tell you're an attorney.
Environmentalist first. How's that? So, it just, I guess, we started the garden, and then eventually the food forest came along. And I know that your concerns were regarding the food forest and the exposed watering pipes that are still there, that because of erosion, it has, you could see those now. And then just the general state of, I would say, lack of care of the food forest. And we're responsible for those, and we need to get those taken care of in a better manner. And in addition to having more participants in the garden, which is, it's just hard with COVID and trying to, 105 degrees in the shade right now, it's the worst time of all gardening. But going forward, I have an idea about having members that basically do not have as many responsibilities as being a gardener in one of the beds, but basically taking care of a food forest, which would, require less time and less commitment. And I'm going to try to do that to help get more hands to take care of things. And also, I think that the food forest would be a perfect place to implement butterfly garden plants. We already have some in there, but I know on your agenda later on, you're going to be talking about the butterfly garden project. And so I just wanted to throw that out. And if you want to discuss that, that would be a possibility. So anybody, what questions can I answer for you guys?
Hey, Becky, sorry. I just have questions about, are there regular people that go and do things there? And is there a plan in place? It just looks like it hasn't had much attention.
It has been, yes, we have, first of all, what I would do is I would say, for a better history and all the people who have been involved over the years, look at our website. We have the basically history and pictures and how it looked in the beginning and who was participating. And in the last couple of years, it's been hard to get people. I think, we've tried different things to get people to commit to, showing up when we're down there. Glenn and his son, Evan, and their daughter, Gina, they are the consistent, caretakers down there and have taken on, responsibility when nobody else was willing to go down there. But it's really not a community garden if you don't have a community. So, and I know there's been such a turnover of new people in Rollingwood and people with kids, and I that's, boy, that is part of the joy of the garden, is seeing these kids get excited and learn things and smell and taste and want to plant and get excited about, learning this stuff. And I want to try, I don't know you guys with COVID and school and everything, but eventually when we get through this COVID thing, we want to make it easier for moms with kids to have time when that they can tell us what time is good for them, basically, to be able to participate. So, you know, I've had a lot of people say they want to get involved, and then they show up or tell Glenn that a couple times, and you know, it just isn't consistent. So, yeah, we also we kind of I think that before the founders, everybody basically had some gardening experience and understood what needed to be done. But you know, a lot of people come from a lot of different backgrounds, and maybe this is their very first, you know, time of actually planting a garden. So
I guess my concern would just be that, you know, having it, I understand the concern about not having regular volunteers, but at the same time, we've got to make sure that that land is kept nice. Like right now, all the irrigation lines are above ground, and it looks like a safety issue. But just making sure that we do have the bandwidth to take care of it and make it look nice.
That right, and that is, you're talking about the irrigation above ground. That is on the food forest,
Right?
Okay, and like I kind of said before, I mean, those have not, you know, have lacked care, and need to be, you know, weeded and trimmed, and figure out, you know, what's in there. Originally, we had signs up describing, you know, telling what the plants were. They've disappeared, but that doesn't mean we can't put new ones back up. And also put in, it's on one hand, it's kind of good that we can see where those lines are. So when we cover that back up, we can, you know, make sure we're not planting where we shouldn't be, right? So that needs to be covered. We could incorporate butterfly plants in there, which would make it look better. And let me clarify that the garden was built to use rainwater only. And that's what the garden inside the fence has used. But when the food forest was installed, those permaculture mounds had to be irrigated from within. So at that point, we did use city water for a while. And we do have a separate tap in the water box there, so that if you know, we're not using it now, but should we ever need to use city water again, we can meter it and pay you guys for it. So, you know, that's it, because we really don't want to be dragging a bunch of hoses from, you know, from the rainwater tank. But who knows? There's some other opportunities there to maybe use rainwater for the food forest in a real small version. Just some ideas that people have had. So,
when was the last time that was in like working order where people could get food from there? And
I know Glenn and Evan and the Nyer, let's see, Eva and Beck and Dean Nyer, which, if you know Jeannie Nyer of Rollingwood, it was really great to see them. They've been there gardening this past year. Oh, let me think. I'm trying to think who else.
So that was this year, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I in January, I had put together a draft of a grant request for the Women's Club on things that we wanted to do. And anyway, that.
Hi, excuse me, this is Glenn. I'd like to speak to this. Sorry, I've been on mute this whole time and been bursting at the seams here because I'm the one who's down there more than anybody. So the question was asked, when's the last time people have actually gotten food from there? And we had huge crops all the way up through June. And for what it's worth, I keep a blog on our website. Becky, at the end of her, she composed a really nice summary of the history of the park. At the very, very, very last line of that document, she has a link to her website. Please go there if you have any doubt that place has produced the most lovely plants and for kids and everything like that. It is absolutely amazing. Right now, it's towards the end of summer. It's too hot and too dry to really grow anything. And to be quite honest, I've been on vacation and been working with a bunch of Scouts and Eagle projects. So I myself have neglected the garden for the past month. That I plan on getting right back involved again very soon. This is the first time I've heard any complaints about the food forest, so we can definitely address that as well. For what it's worth, one thing I have access to is a Scout troop. Back at the last time we had Park Day, it was Scouts from my troop that put down a lot of mulch in the lower park area. If we had more mulch, it would be very, very, very easy for us to cover all these irrigation lines. So that's easy to do, and as weeding and anything else that one's concerned about, again, for occasional periodic things of that nature, I can probably get Scout troops to help with that because they get community service hours for that kind of thing. So they actually have some, what should I say, self-motivation to help out in that regard. So we definitely have the means to do a lot of this. It's just a matter of making it a priority. But the garden has definitely impacted the community more than you know. Anyone who's ever been down there and has been given a tour of that area, especially by the best tour guide of that garden, which is my son, knows what an amazing place that is. And just recently, I ran into some neighbors that called me in the backyard because they wanted to show me the garden that they had just built based on everything they had learned down at our community garden. So I'm just telling you, that place is a big impact. It does produce food, and it's made a lot of people really happy. I know it doesn't look good right now because of it being midsummer.
What is the website?
What about the website?
Yes. How do I find the website?
It's at the bottom of my little paper, but it's actually, www.rwceg.org.
Am I able to screen share by chance?
I don't
believe so.
All right. So
do we have that ability, Amber, to screen share?
Yes. Lynn, let me promote you to panelist.
All right.
Okay. Now that you're panelist, there should be some buttons at the bottom. And the third one from the left says share screen.
Okay, yeah, share screen document. Yep, got it. And share screen. There we go. Yeah, share this screen. Share.
While Glenn's getting there.
There we go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Do you see it?
That's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. So this was March. All right. This is what the garden area looked like in March. All right. And again, a lot of kids. This not me, but a lot of kids actually helped grow this. And this is this year. It was March, and that's how this place looks during a lot of the year. Unfortunately, it's midsummer right now, and when it gets up above 90 degrees, nothing's going to grow down there very easily. And a lot of us have been on vacation and stuff. So I'm just showing off some pictures here of some things we've grown down there, and more to the point, this is Ava Nair, and she's one of the brightest star students I've ever seen down there. She's extremely engaged, very intelligent, and has learned a heck of a lot about gardening. Every time she goes down there, this is like one of her harvests. She takes this home and she makes salads with her family. And this is the boy standing here. That's my son Evan. He is. I started gardening down there because of him. It's kind of unusual for a lot of boys to be interested in gardening, for whatever reason my son is. And he's a Scout, and this big giant trellis that you see right here, he built that himself using Scout skills. This is made of bamboo, and he was able to lash together all this stuff to help this grow. And he's teaching a lot of other people how to do this kind of thing. So he's teaching Scout skills. This is last summer, and I'm sorry. Here's last summer. These are cucumbers and zucchinis, and a big, giant plant behind the girls there. They planted that from a seed. And you not believe how amazed they are when 3 months later in time, they're looking at a plant 3 times taller than they are that they planted. And so trust me, it's the most magical place that you can imagine. This is not the best picture in the world, but here's a group of girls that just harvested potatoes. This is one of our biggest events. We literally have this, everyone knows about Easter eggs, right? Well, a lot of times we have this big Easter egg hunt that's with potatoes. And we grow a lot of different colored potatoes. And we've had birthday parties going on down at the garden, down at the park, and the kids get bored at the park area, and they all come over to the garden wondering what's going on. And next thing you know, you have all these kids digging up all these potatoes out of the ground. It's pretty awesome. So if anyone has any doubt, this is the grape harvest that we had last year. So anyway, I could go on and on and on. Here, this picture right here is us teaching kids how to make soil. Not many people think much about, quote, dirt, right? It's this yucky stuff, right? That it's not. And we actually teach them the 3 major components that really make soil grow. These kids are not only making it, but they're learning about it and how to use it and being very involved with it. The garden bed that you see here is wooden frame bed. It's also very new, built by one of our garden community members, not by me. And it was built very, very inexpensively. And as Becky pointed out, we raise money largely from donations. We don't use any funding from the city at all for any of this. So anyway, I'm sorry I'm rambling on here at this point, but if anyone has any doubt that this place, produces and educates and inspires, go to this website, and I think you'll feel differently about it.
Thank you.
This is Becky. Let me before the COVID hit us, we had plans we talked about last fall, and for the spring, we actually, the area kind of around in the center there, basically the field in the center where the kids are running and playing, and we thought it would be really fun to, we'd have to come to the city and get your approval, of course, but we wanted to have a pumpkin patch there. And, it wouldn't take up that much room, but like a teepee type thing that beans would grow up and kids could play in, and then the pumpkins. And so that it would be a fun event for the kids to have in the fall. A lot of that area there, some of it's grass, but some of it's also a ground cover called horse herb, and it's a native ground cover, natural ground cover that grows mainly in the shade. It's not a weed. It's a ground cover, and it would be great if we could have more diversity of ground covers and different kinds of grasses down there, just for the birds, the butterflies, for everything. So that's something we'd come back to you guys at a later date to talk about.
Yeah. I guess a quick question I have, going back to the food forest, because I think that admittedly has been neglected or not maintained by the gardeners down there. What I'm hearing is concern about the irrigation pipes being exposed. And again, plants and mulching can take care of that. I'm wondering to what level of urgency there is in addressing this issue. Like, for instance, if I don't know what the next park day is, but if we can secure enough mulch, to address all the mulching needs required down in the lower park as well as the food forest, I'm very confident that I can get plenty of labor to help, address not only the food forest areas, but anything that needs to be mulched down in the lower park.
This is Becky. I have a question for the Park Commission. Does the city own a mulcher or a wood chipper these days?
We don't.
You don't? Okay. Okay. All right. So
that was something David was hoping for. But go ahead.
would that be something that the city, I mean, do you think that's something you guys would use a lot if you had a good one?
Well, we had one. The problem is we don't have any place to store materials. So we'd have to get approval to store a lot of wood chips somewhere. And there's a lot of liability in operating a wood chipper. So I think we'd prefer, either getting a truckload from somewhere as opposed to having a wood chipper on site. That I don't know that we'd see the cost savings, cost benefit from having one.
It really is a piece of machinery that you've got to be very careful using it. And
Right.
then to get the one of the proper size, you have to spend quite a bit of money, or it'll only take very small diameter branches and so forth. I just checked, and it's my park days on November 7th of this year, unless, of course, that gets changed because of the pandemic.
Right. I just want to note that I'm not sure what else, what other trees you guys possibly are, cedar trees that maybe you're thinking of taking down. I just know that there was a large cedar tree a couple of years ago, and in the lower park, right next to the food forest, and it was taken out. And that cedar, it was large, it had heartwood in it, and that could have been chipped and used right there, right on the spot, right there. So anyway, I'm just trying to promote reuse and working with the natural cycles and what we have there as much as we can. So
Becky, mulch is available to the city of Austin after when they collect the Christmas trees.
I'm rural, yeah.
Part of it's my park day, and last time I was heading, it's my park day, we asked for 18 cubic yards, and I think we could have asked for up to 20 cubic yards. 18 was huge, but
okay.
So definitely we can get mulch at It's My Park Day if they have it. In the meantime, I'm sure, we can investigate other things perhaps, but.
Okay. Another thing I think maybe later in your agenda, I mean, or maybe I can't remember who brought this up, but you all had discussed having events in the park to, bring the neighbors together when we can, okay, when we can. But that's something that we did a lot of in the early days, and we'd like to work with you guys and coordinate that if we, in the future. We've had, you could have a little concert down there. Anyway, just look at the website and you'll see the movies we've screened, the potluck dinners we've had. People come and talk about, permaculture or, wildflower gardening, that sort of thing. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and feel free to contact me if you have any more questions.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, and again, my big question here is the level of urgency there is with regards to covering up the irrigation system. And again, we can take care of that as soon as there's resources available to take care of that, right? So I don't know if waiting to the next park day, when generally speaking, mulch, becomes available from somewhere is good, or if we have to take care of this much sooner than that. And if so, do you have?
I think partly, so I heard Becky speaking of possibly putting in more butterfly promoting plants down there, and I think you would want to do that before you mulched over the area, just make it easier to put those type of plants in. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
I don't disagree with that. Horse herb in particular would be a good ground cover. And Becky also mentioned the other butterfly type plants and stuff, so I can coordinate with her and see what she has in mind and try to install that. I think mulching is going to be probably a necessary component to all this, because it not only covers things, but it also helps retain, water in the soil for the plants. So again, when mulch becomes available, for park day purposes or whatever, if we resource it appropriately to be able to cover those mounds, I can definitely help with a labor force, to make sure all that happens.
Right.
I just wanna
Glenn,
make
you
sure
covered
that
those at Glenn, did you cover those at the last It's My Park Day with the mulch?
No, we did not. In fact, I'll be honest with you, we barely even had enough mulch to cover the standard things that are covered down there, right? Because usually it's put around a lot of the trees and down there, a lot of the other bedded areas, and we barely even had enough mulch for that. And so the food forest, quite honestly, was not even a consideration at the time. But given this conversation, obviously we have to reprioritize. If we had about twice as much mulch as we had last time, we could easily cover everything that needed to be covered down at the park, the lower park, as well as handle the food mounds, I believe.
Do you know I know I was the head of It's My Park Day, but do you remember how much? I know they moved a large pile down into the parking lot to near the lower park for you guys to access. Do you know how many cubic yards or anything like that was?
That's a very good question, and I should know the answer to that because I'm the one who made an initial estimate for that. But I don't remember, but I'm guessing I can find an email with that exchange of information, and as soon as I find that, I'll let you know what that amount was. And like I said, I think doubling it would be about the right thing to do because, like I said, we really didn't have enough to really do an appropriate mulching job just around the trees and stuff down there.
I'm just wondering if that area, if we got a serious rain, if it's all going to run off anyway, if there's actually edging that would need to occur as well in order to keep it on those mounds. Do you have any thoughts about that?
That's a good question. Generally speaking, that's where the roots of the other plants do a good job. If you've got the ground cover, for an example, that should do a lot to mitigate that. But again, this is kind of a kind of do and see kind of a thing. I mean, mulch in general, as we all know, just kind of disappears and dissipates over time, right? Because it literally gets absorbed into the ground, which is why we have to keep doing it periodically, right? So I haven't seen that much erosion down there, to be honest, myself, because those mounds are still mounds, and they wouldn't be if there was a lot of erosion going on. The permaculturists that designed and built that kind of really knew what they were doing. Those mounds are primarily decomposed granite as opposed to just dirt, and so they're very compact. If you try to dig into it, it's very, very difficult because it's dense. Mulch, on the other hand, I agree. It's lighter and is more likely to be able to run off if we don't have some plants in place to help hold it in.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? This is Becky. Just a short. What kind of supplies, basically, compost, soil, what's in the city, in the park commission's budget to take care of the park, fertilizing, that sort of thing, getting rid of the weeds on the trail. Do you guys have a number? Do you have a place that you purchase that sort of thing? And do you have what do you guys purchase to do that? Anybody?
Well, Becky, we might be a little off topic here. I think, we want to kind of stick to the garden, but just to let you know, we just took over all of those responsibilities.
Right.
So, we're kind of guessing at the budget, but we know we have to make sure it's done and paid for. So
I just want to mention that if being a member of the garden, we get a discount on the garden supplies from a company called Bright Ideas, which is a great place to get dirt, get orange oil, get anything you need for plants and gardening, they have it. And we get a discount, and our members get a discount if they are just for their own yards. I mean, just because they're a member of the garden. And I think there's an opportunity, if the city needed to purchase that stuff, that there would be an opportunity to get a significant discount for the city. So just keep that in mind and let me know if you want to pursue that. Again, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Becky.
All right. The next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action of Eagle Scout projects and the process for project approval.
Oh, wow.
We had been approached by Lee Deviney and some other Eagle Scouts hope to be for projects, and so we thought it might be easiest if the Park Commission just approved a list, and then we could give that to the Eagle Scout, and then they could decide, what project they wanted to pursue on the approved list of projects. And then also, I wanted the Park Commission to give some direction as to how they wanted these projects to go through for official approval. That way we could make sure we were informing the Boy Scouts.
Hey, y'all, I have to go. I got a sprinkler repair guy at my house. So,
Do we want to bump up Don, if you want to introduce yourself, if you want to do that before we go into the Eagle Scout, we could maybe shift around the order of.
That'd be okay?
That would be okay with us.
Okay.
If you want.
This is about my third meeting, and I thought I would just introduce myself. I've lived in Rollingwood for nearly 40 years, and it's quite a wonderful community, and it's changed dramatically in those years. I've biked and hiked all over this community. I've walked the creek bed from Edge Grove all the way to Town Lake many times. It's stunningly beautiful in places, and now I see it slowly turning into a culvert, which is ugly. I've watched the way this will probably be controversial, but what the hell? Our ball fields, I've studied the deed restrictions, and that's all wonderfully within the deed restrictions. However, and I know I decided to join this before they voted on the 10-year lease to baseball, which I don't understand, but it's water under the bridge at this point. Those fields, the way they're configured, they just take them offline for just almost everything except baseball and a little bit of dog use. And when I was growing up, we had fields nearby, at schools, at an industrial building nearby, touch football, all these pickup games were there, and they were used extensively by the locals. But the fields in Rollingwood are kind of, as far as me taking my granddaughters up there and kicking around a soccer ball, or maybe a little 3-on-3 soccer or flag football, it's just not available. The dirt part of those fields, they don't like it to get messed up. And there is the dog park, which is reasonable. And I had this view of the front ball field staying there and the rest of that converting into a big open field that could be multi-purpose. That's not going to happen. However, what I wish would happen, and why I joined the board, was to see if let me just finish. I'm gonna have to cut this short, but see if baseball couldn't take it under consideration to make those fields more amenable and usable to the citizens. It can still be baseball, but maybe there's a way they can be just more useful to the kids in the area. Those are prime for that, and yet it brings in people from all over Travis County to play baseball. And the deed restrictions really say for Eanes Independent School District kids. And you know, there's not much we can do about how the commercial development goes, but the more of that creek bed we can leave native and natural, the better off we'll be. It's really beautiful. And really, that's about all I wanted to say. I do feel like baseball, while they have lots of access to those fields, I just like to see them be a better neighbor to not only the citizens of, but the kids of the neighborhood, where that was more available for anybody's use to do anything as big open fields. Not going to happen, I realize, but that's why I joined the board, was to see if I could push that more in a direction of general use by the community, still for youth sports in a very big way, but now it's hardly ever used except when baseball is in place. So that's all I got. Also, I'm very interested in these gardens that Becky and Glenn talked about, but I've got to go be with my sprinkler, and thank you all.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you so much, Don.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And I think there are opportunities to have, you know, have the mixed use fields be mixed use but there definitely is priority to the baseball and softball as a result of the lease. So that needs to be honored as well. So I think we can all live together, hopefully. All right, so now back to Eagle Scout projects. One of the questions I first had is, are all of the things that they're proposing, it's not really under our jurisdiction to figure out what qualifies as an adequate Eagle Scout project?
No, it's
Correct?
what we want done in the park, and then how can they help?
Right. But I mean, I guess everything they're proposing would qualify as an Eagle Scout project. Are they proposing things that would not I mean, any of those things that they're proposing supposedly qualify as an Eagle Scout project according to the Boy Scouts. Is that correct?
That's how I understand it and read it. And I'm guessing maybe what Ashley was saying is that we as the commission, do we have a structure or process that we would ask the Eagle Scouts to be able to comply with in order for it to be reviewed by commission and then actually put into place? Is that correct,
Okay.
Ashley?
I don't know if any of you are aware, but that existing, the butterfly garden that I'm getting ready to work on, in fact, we're starting on it this month. We're going to start working on it. But that actually was an Eagle Scout project.
Okay.
So my I certainly don't want, I mean, I'd rather not have an Eagle Scout project be a butterfly garden because I want it done right. I want it to be sustainable, first of all.
Sure.
So I think we can do, I don't want somebody to dig a hole and put cute plants in the ground that may or may not make it. And I agree that there are, if you go online and you study what an Eagle Scout project is supposed to be, there's a lot of research and work that goes into it. It's not just a project that they can do in a couple of weekends. So if you look at the list of projects that are out there, there's some of them. First of all, I don't know what the pecan grove planting, I didn't know we had a pecan grove we were doing or working with. Do we have a pecan grove now?
I'm sorry, but I've got to drop off. I had let Ashley know yesterday I have a work commitment, but y'all have quorum, and I'd love to what y'all decide, because I think this is an important part of the meeting, and sorry to miss it, but thanks.
All right. Thanks, Laura.
Okay, bye.
We don't have a pecan grove now. It was something that David came up with as a possible idea to reduce the erosion, and it's back toward the back of the lower park is kind of where he was looking at it, just to plant some nice trees back there.
Where?
Toward the back of the park where that one special birdhouse is, and along the cliff. And the idea was to plant some trees so that way it, it would prevent erosion and runoff, and just have some nice trees.
So it's back toward the people over on Park Hills. And it would be where the chimney swifts are going over to the community garden. I'm guessing that area.
On the lower level.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. I think it's going to take some work to make sure that they actually do this. Phil, you were referring to what it's required to do an actual Eagle Scout project.
Right. Yeah, it's not under our jurisdiction, but some of those projects, like you said, I don't think, unless several things were combined, they just didn't seem like they were big enough or extensive enough to be what would normally be an Eagle Scout project. But that's up to the Boy Scouts what qualifies as an Eagle Scout project, I think.
What about the drainage problem?
Well, that is a huge project, and then that would also, I think you'd need to get civil engineers and a variety of things involved in that particular one. But
Well, if David if he's willing to oversee something like this, and they did get a civil engineer to work with them, I mean, could it hurt anything? Would be my first question.
Well, and that's where I come in and agree with you all, is that when it comes to drainage with the city and the way that it is right now, we do need some professional who has the authorization to be able to draw up. And maybe the city already has some preliminary work that's been done in the last 5 to 7 years or so. So I think we had a drainage report from about 10 years ago. So if that had proposed suggestions on how to go about this, and then it could actually be a multi-phase year-to-year project for Eagle Scouts to come in and continue on once phase 1 is done, then phase 2, so on and so forth. And as long as it's done with an engineer's approval, to me, I think that that's our responsibility as the commission to make sure that whatever work is done, that it's benefiting, it's done properly, and that also it's also in alignment with potentially the master plan for the park.
Sure.
To make sure that we don't negate any kind of direction in moving forward with that.
So are there any on the list that we would like to keep or remove? I mean, what are your feelings on what appears to be appropriate on this list?
I think the dog pavers is something that's simple. I don't think that's going to that's not going to affect any kind of erosion or safety. To me, that's my personal opinion, is that the brick pavers can be installed by the Eagle Scouts. It's not going to be a long sustaining project, to somebody's point earlier.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, that I think for sure the Boy Scouts or the Eagle Scouts could help with putting in the pavers, but I don't think that that's really a big project.
Right. I'm not sure it qualifies as an Eagle Scout project.
And,
So
and
maybe-
the same thing with the enclosure for granite and mulch and that type of thing. I think that's pretty small, except for that would require them to get approval of where that's placed and kind of work with the city and get buy-in, that type of thing. I could see the Pecan Grove as being possibly an Eagle Scout project. So I
And then
guess
with the storage also would probably need some kind of architect drawing if you're going to build some sort of freestanding building, unless it's just.
I don't think. Well, I talked to David about it. David from our public works, and what he's really just looking for is something like a 4x8 box with a lid on it that he can keep gravel and mulch in. So it's not a building, it's more of just kind of a box that you can have those materials in, and then you can pull them out as they go. So once again, that's something that, frankly, you could probably build in a couple of hours. It would be getting it in the right place and getting the buy-in to do it would be more the issue. And that may be an Eagle Scout project, may not be, but anyway.
What if we, I don't know if we can do this in this meeting today, but possibly between now and our next meeting, what if we as the commission said, here's how we would suggest going about an Eagle Scout project, the type of project that we feel the city would benefit from, as well as meet the Eagle Scout criterion. And then it would self-eliminate a lot of these projects that have been put on, or it would confirm that these projects that they're suggesting should be done.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable?
I agree.
And did they suggest these projects, or did we come up with these? Who came up with this list again, Amber?
Ashley, David, and I were brainstorming. We're not married to any of these as being Eagle Scout projects. Just thought y'all could have this as a starting point. Add to, you can take off whatever.
Okay, I
wanted you all to have the conversation around it.
Okay,
Sure.
that was great. That was a good idea.
And maybe since Lori was really interested in this, maybe we kind of do what we did, break off into a small group of 2 or 3, work on this between now and the next meeting, and come up with what we propose as far as criterion. Then we can at least bring it back to the commission to discuss, and then edit and transpose from there to get some sort of agreement of what we would think that the lease, or the Eagle Scout projects would look like.
Well, and before we go any further, I'd like to hear from Colleen on the pet pavers. I mean, Colleen, do you have a game plan for getting those in place?
That's another item that we're going to be getting to.
Yeah, that's one of the next agenda items.
Yeah.
So we'll get there.
But I mean, one of the things that my understanding is part of the Eagle Scout criteria is them actually coming up with the idea and the project. And that can be through them interviewing the city of what kind of things might you need and that type of thing. I mean, a lot of it is to build their civic abilities and leadership qualities and that type of thing. So I think instead of us creating a punch laundry list, if we can kind of, as you're saying, Nicole, have like, here's how one might go about approaching the city in regards to a Eagle Scout project, or figuring out what a project might be, then, part of that would be interviewing city staff and interviewing us perhaps, or whatever, or interviewing citizens in the city of, what kind of things might they like to see. But part of it is them actually coming up with the idea and then selling the idea, I think, was my understanding. And that's just on my actions with Andrew on the Gaga pit. So
Yeah. Hi, this is Glenn again. I hope you don't mind me chiming in. But I happen to be I happen to be a committee chair of Troop 31, and my scout just finished his Eagle project. And let me indulge just briefly here. So do you see this picture?
not yet. Amber
No?
will have to make it so you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, here it goes.
Glenn, you should be able just to share your screen again.
Okay,
There we
There
we
we
go.
go.
Okay, the only reason I'm showing this, my son just finished his Eagle project and he's standing right next to it. He installed a rainwater collection system at a underprivileged preschool, and it included constructing a 60-foot long gutter system, which you kind of see in the upper left here. And he had to, build a foundation for the tank, and actually put in the tank, put in all the plumbing for the tank and all that kind of good stuff. And this took him about 4 weekends and probably about roughly 20 people helping him to put all this together bit by bit by bit. Because of COVID, he could only work with a few people at a time. But anyway, the reason I'm showing this gives you a little bit of an idea of the scope of an Eagle project. And what Phil was saying is exactly right. Evan had to come up with his own idea of, where to put the tank and just think through everything and how it was going to interface with the needs of the facility. His beneficiary said very little about exactly what to do. He had to work with the beneficiary to make sure that she approved of everything. But a lot of an Eagle project is about the scout planning and also showing leadership during the execution phase. And also I'll mention that the Chimney Swift house, birdhouse down in the park is also an Eagle Scout project as well. Nobody knows what that thing is. We refer to it as the UFO because we get so many questions about what that is, but that's an idea of an example of an Eagle Scout project as well.
Yeah, that was Sarah Hudson's, one of her sons did that
Right.
as the Eagle Scout project. So, but yeah, that's some of the scope. Like they're supposed to come up with the idea and that type of thing. So certainly, we can have ideas that should an Eagle Scout approach us or approach the city or approach David, like David could suggest, oh, well, yeah, these would be great ideas. But yeah, anyway, I just want us to understand the idea behind the Eagle Scout thing, because it's mostly for developing and benefiting these young men. So.
Well said.
Yeah, thank you.
So then as far as the commission on this agenda point, are we wanting to break off into a smaller subset to be able to come up with sort of guidelines to say, here's how Eagle Scouts should go about suggesting a project to the Park Commission and or city by following these steps? Is that what we want to do? Or where are we closing the loop on this?
I don't know, Glenn. I mean, what I hear is I don't really think that we need to do that. Like that would be part of their learning process, would be how to approach and how to try to go about that. But what are your thoughts if you're still on there, Glenn?
Yeah, a little bit. Usually the beneficiary, the person or organization you're benefiting has an idea of kind of what they want, that it is up to the scout to really fill in the details, to really do a lot of the planning on his own. Like for instance, if hypothetically, if collecting, rainwater was something you wanted to do as an example, you could show a facility, to collect water from, and it's kind of up to scout to figure out, how, where to put it and how to install it and kind of think through a lot of that. And of course, work with the beneficiary to make sure that they're happy with all that, right? So it's a little bit of back and forth and give and take with all that, for sure. I hear a lot of drainage issues at play here, and I agree with you all that you probably do need a civil engineer, someone who's professionally trained to know exactly what to do. But again, that's not out of the realm of a scout project, and that the scout could learn a lot from said engineer, and then try to figure out exactly what materials and how to go about actually doing execution.
I was
So do you
thinking
think it would? Go ahead,
more
Nicole.
because this is our second time we've been approached by scouts, which is great. Okay, and we've spent a big portion of our time on scout projects. We don't have a process for scouts to be able to access that's been approved by the commission in order to move forward with a project that they would suggest to us. That's where I'm coming from, is to streamline our time and to be mindful of where we're at in the agenda packet, is to say, moving forward between now and the next meeting, could a small group of us get together and we would propose then to the commission next meeting that these are the steps we would require. So that's why anybody who has an Eagle Scout idea, they just follow those guidelines, and then we have just streamlined the whole process. That's where I'm coming from.
I agree with Nicole. I don't think it's a bad idea to have just a basic roadmap for anyone, I mean, scouts or anyone else that wants to contribute their time and do something that's going to benefit the park. It seems like that would just free us up from having to go through the process with each iterative individual.
Yeah, I don't object to general guidelines of, what kind of things would the commission like to see on any kind of proposal, be it scout or citizen
It
in
would
general.
definitely help. It would help staff because we have the Eagle Scouts coming to us, and so we would have a general direction as to what you were looking for. And also it would expedite their timeline because with y'all meeting once a month, we would have to say, well, we have to get you in front of the park commission, and there might be a lot of more back and forth before they could come to you and say, hey, we like this project on your list. And they could come up with their own.
Well, once again, I think they're supposed to come up with the idea. I mean, that's part of what they're supposed to do as the Eagle Scout project. I don't think that it serves the Eagle Scouts for us to have a list of possible projects. I do think parameters of what they should think about when proposing a project would be useful. But I don't think a laundry list of potential projects is something that we should do. But
it goes back to Glenn saying, I work with the beneficiary to say, what are your issues? What are some ways that we can help support or fix your problems? And so that's where I think it's no different than, hey, we know we have an issue of drainage at the lower pavilion where there's no gutter system installed. Like, we know we have that issue. So it'd be very easy for us to have that conversation and dialogue with the scout. But the point is that I believe we should set a few of us aside to be able to come up with some guidelines. And then that way it helps take the burden off of city staff to be able to say to whomever approaches them, here's a start to where you need to come from.
Right. I'm just trying to say guidelines are different from specific project ideas.
Exactly. Guidelines are different from a list.
Right. That's all. But
I'm
I
happy
agree.
to be a part of
Guidelines
that
is a great
smaller
idea.
group to come up with some guidelines for people who approach city. I'm happy to be a part of that. If anybody else wants to join, awesome. If not, I'll reach out to the other folks that had to leave the call to see if they're interested.
I'd be available for that if that's something that you guys want to be done. And anybody else that wants to volunteer could be free to do that too. I think we do have to make sure we don't have a quorum, but we're not deciding anything. This is going to be something that's going to be presented before the park commission at a quorum. So I don't know if we have any quorum issues or anything like that we need to be concerned about with breaking off.
We cannot have a quorum working in the small group, so you can have up to 3.
Okay.
So Phil, do you want to just reach out to the other commission members that left to see if they're interested in participating with you?
I would love it if you would do that, because this was your great initial idea. Okay.
I'm on.
Wonderful. I would love that. I'm going to let you spearhead this. But I'm willing to be a participant. I'm also willing to drop off if there's way too many people involved. So either way, but that would be great. Thank you. Yes.
This is Becky Combs. I'm very interested in that, and I'd certainly volunteer to help in this group. Just with ideas. I've had experience working with Boy Scout projects growing up. My dad, they built bridges in our park, 3 bridges over creeks, and then of course the rainwater collection system that you saw that Evan did. Anyway, I just think there's a lot of great things that scouts who live in this neighborhood could do, and they would love it. And for years and years, they'll come back and show their kids, hey, I built this when I was living here. So I think it's a good thing to promote. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to leave that to Nicole. So thank you, Nicole, for volunteering to spearhead all that. And let's see, what else have we got? Okay, we've done the introduction of Don. So now we're on to Colleen's discussion and placement of installation of pet pavers. Item number 6.
Okay, so we basically just need to decide where we want to place these pet pavers. We ended up having orders for 4 4x8s, 11 8x8s, and 4 12x12s. So what we have sold so far in the fundraiser are not too many, but enough to cover a small space. Does everyone have the agenda packet? Because it's probably just easiest to like take a look at pages 12, 13, and 14.
Yes.
Just to help as a visual aid in making this decision, and then can go from there and get them installed. So are you guys all there?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
are. I like the last picture that you have where it's to the side of the water fountain, but that's one vote for that. Is where, so kind of up near the fence line in between the existing granite path and then the fence line to the side of the water fountain, I think is a great location. But
And I love it straight across the path.
I do too.
oh, okay, okay.
Just if you ever wanted to add more, you could continue it on in either direction, where I think you might be limited. I couldn't tell from the picture if you're limited if you go to the, right of the fountain. So to speak.
Well, there's a lot of land to the right for a long
I know, but see,
way.
when I walk on the path, Boudreaux wants to see his name.
So
Okay.
you guys are preferring 12, where it's in the actual walking path, like embedded in that?
Yes.
Oh, no, sorry. I wasn't
Okay.
there.
What were you saying, Nicole?
I was
Now
saying
we've got-
page 13. Sorry.
Wait, what were you saying, Nicole?
Page 13, where it's across from the fountain. Because what if the path ever has to be fixed or changed, and then you have that inside of the path?
So we're saying 3 different things?
Yeah.
Yep, we got 3 separate votes. It's
Good luck with it.
completely.
So Colleen, you're the tiebreaker. I mean, you're
I know. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, great, I get to be the tiebreaker. Amber, are there any engineering considerations that we need to be thinking about? Are there pipes in certain places? Because this is, these are brick thickness. So these are thick set. This isn't a thin set brick, in other words. So they'll have to excavate a little bit to make it level. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Not that I'm aware of. We can run it by David and make sure.
Yeah, the pipe going to the water fountain is on the other side of the water fountain from that one proposal that you had. That's the only infrastructure I'm aware of that's under there, but there may be something under the path, but I don't know.
I think that's it, Phil. I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah.
I'll say, I think I like page 13's placement the best, and here's why. I think that if we try to do it on the walking path itself, it could end up getting covered up by some of that crushed granite. But if we did it as edging to the path, we could maybe raise it up a little bit, just like, or even remove that edging and make the brick pavers new edging. And it could be raised up a little bit to the point where it wouldn't have crushed granite like falling on top of it over time, or whatever. And then the other thing is, I think if we did it on the side there, like in number 13, we have quite a distance that it could cover. And if you look at page 12, like the bricks that we have sold right now, like that's an accurate depiction of how much space they're going to cover. So it would just be like a tiny little band, as opposed to maybe doing it along as more of an edging to the trail, the walking trail. We could cover more distance and get a little more visibility. I don't have a strong preference. That's just kind of my logical walkthrough on my thoughts on that.
Is there any issue with them someday trying to do something to that parking lot?
There is. I mean, there certainly is a possibility that they would have to be relocated if there's a significant change to how that layout works right now with that parking lot. But they'll be set in sand, so they're not going to be like cemented in.
I just worry about heavy equipment moving through there. I've seen them move those big rocks. I mean, if we're going to put them to one side of the path or the other, I almost prefer they be up to the fence. I think they would be safer there. I just see, sometimes I see those big rocks moved. I don't know who moves them. I think it's those big trucks that move through there. I've seen garbage trucks. I see them move those big dumpsters from time to time. And I don't know who it is that moves those huge, you know those huge rocks I'm talking about? I've seen those get moved. And I don't know why. I've seen a couple of them get broken. So I guess I need to look at the pictures again and see how close that is to those rocks. But
Looks like they're about a foot away from the big rocks as they currently are. If they were,
that might be okay. That might be okay, but it would probably be okay. That might be far enough away. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably far enough away. That's probably safe. I've never seen a truck come that close. Yeah, forget it. I think those are safe there. Yeah, I'm fine with either one. If I can't have what I want, and I've tried to get Hugo to come in here and vote, but he won't. He's sleeping. So if I can't have what I want, I go with either one of those.
Do we need to like take a vote, or do we want? I don't know how to do this, but we do need to just make a decision so that we can get these put in the ground.
I think those are on the other side.
Okay, so as depicted on page 13?
13.
Are we okay with that?
I vote yes on 13.
Okay, I'll vote yes too.
I will as well.
I vote too, because Boudreaux didn't come in.
Unanimous.
Okay, so I'll put out a configuration. It probably will be a 12-inch wide band, and just kind of run it as far along as we have bricks for, and then as we get more bricks, as we continue this fundraiser, that stretch can get a little bit longer. I would maybe say we could even remove the edging, and that 12-inch band could become the edging.
You do
I
have.
think that,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, I heard a concern which I had not heard before, which is the decomposed granite getting on those, and that perhaps wearing down either the pavers or the writing on the pavers and that type of thing. And so I would be careful if we had them be the edging, because that gravel will get kicked up and it's always being replaced. I think they would be more in danger of possibly not being legible, readable, that type of thing as the years go on if we did that.
And I think aesthetically, it's going to look awkward if we have all the paver, all the edging, and then all of a sudden we just have the small, maybe 20 feet of the brick pavers, and then we go back to edging. I think aesthetically, it might not look the best.
Yeah.
If we had an entire area that we could pave around, completely different. But I think if the stretch is there, I think it should be its own entity versus trying to incorporate into what's existing. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, so leave the white stone edging where it is and install the pavers immediately in the photo, at least to the left of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. We've got good direction. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for taking that on.
Colleen, you've done such a great job.
Yes, great job on that.
All right, we're on to agenda item number 7, material storage, and then something about the tree topo. So I think this is, I'm pulling up the PDF now. Yeah, so this is what David is proposing. That yellow area is kind of, he's hoping he can get a box that he can maybe keep decomposed granite and dirt and maybe mulch, I don't know, things that he wants to store in there. And it looks like he's looking at 60 by 20 feet. So that's
That's huge.
That's huge. I don't know if we own that land. I don't know if he's investigated to find out if we own that land or if that might be part of Western Hills land.
It's too big.
Yeah, that's really big.
My other question would be about the size, would just be, is that eliminating parking? It's sort of hard to tell from the aerial photo. Is that in that informal gravel parking area?
I think it's right up next to it, mostly. I think it's kind of currently heading down into that gulch a little bit, but that would be something that, yeah, if it was, we would need to look at that too, because we certainly don't want to take away from any parking. We would have to have it kind of laid out. When I spoke to David about it, I was under the impression it was going to be something more like 4 by 8 feet or something like that. So this is the first time I've seen this 60 by 20. That's really, really big. So I don't know. We'd have to go take a look at it. But anyway.
If we talk about drainage issues, you look at Mary McMahon's really going to have issues if we start putting something like that there.
Well, Mary McMahon is over to the a good ways away from that. So you see the parking lot winding around up above.
That's still going to affect the drainage.
Did David propose any kind of rendering of what the structure would look like? And do we have any idea of who would construct it?
He's calling me right now. I was going to ask him to come in.
Talking to him, I think something that wouldn't be a bad idea to do would be to at least preliminarily flag it, and then those of us on the committee that are interested in going down and looking, we can go check it out.
I would be.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we can do that. And he's available to pop in here. I think his idea was he could store mulch, granite gravel, and topsoil are the 3 things he wanted to store. And that way, even, if y'all are doing some work in the park, you could go over there and, grab some mulch out or, whatever. But yeah, he'd like to have some materials on site, but in a nice, sightly.
Which is great. And I think, again, if it's more of here's the drawings and here's the rendering of what he's proposing, 60 by 20, we don't know if it's 10 feet tall, if it's 4 feet tall, and just understanding more of what he's wanting it for, and then how he would keep those piles separated, whether it's tarped inside, et cetera, et cetera. So this way, lock and key, how do you access it? Would each commission member have it so that if we did need to do some fill-ins, blah, 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 or does it come through city council, city hall? Just more understanding of what he's wanting to do. I don't think anybody's opposed to it. It's just more detail about the specifics.
Agreed. I think we would need a combination lock on it, similar to what the lock is on the field house and that type of thing, just offhand. I mean, you need to lock it in some way so that it doesn't get vandalized or, somebody dump trash in it or who knows what, But
It looks like it's kind of across from the water fountain.
it's a good ways to the side of that from what we discussed. But yeah, I agree with Colleen that putting flags out to where everybody can see exactly where this is being proposed is kind of a great step number one, similar to what we did with the Gaga pit. It's actually staking it out with little flags is a great way to start getting your mind around it.
And maybe even also propose one on the other side of the walking trail that's closer to City Hall, if that's where maintenance and operations comes out of for Public Works. I don't know what's easier to access, being closer to the City Hall building or being on the opposite side. And then if it impacts parking in long-term plans for the master plan, then maybe we'd have to just have an alternate location as a suggestion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, right now there's a gravel pile in the parking lot, but I think this is more out of the way than anything else, but it would be great to have it staked out.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
We'll get that done. That's a great idea.
Thank you.
All right, I guess we're moving on. So all right. So I'm unclear on what we're supposed to do with tree topo. If that, I'm assuming that had something to do with kind of showing that what would be required with the storage.
It was meant to show where our property, it's a survey.
Oh, okay.
So it's good to show if there were any questions about whether it was on our property. I thought I'd include that in there. So
Okay. So,
right.
so we are sure that the area that he's proposing is definitely City of Rowanwood property, correct?
Yeah, and that's the goal, of course, is to stay on city property, but I love that idea of taking it out, and then we could have David compare it back to the survey and make sure we're on our side of the property.
Okay, great. All right. I guess we're moving on to item number 8. So discussion on request from Rcdc to fund park improvement projects. So I think this came up as a result of the park commissioners looking at the exceptional item requests that were put in. So
Yeah, so I would just say we can look at page 17 just as a supplemental piece of information. And I just kind of numbered those in blue, but basically they relate back to the location numbers that were on the exceptional item budget request form. So that's really the only new information, just for council's benefit to kind of like identify where each of those locations are in the park. As far as I heard, this got approved. So we're really happy about that. Thanks for any council members who are listening to this call right now. And I'm not sure, aside from providing that, what we need to do other than just help them identify what we think could potentially be considered a capital improvement versus what's just a maintenance item. Is that right, Amber? Because I wasn't at the city council meeting. Is that what they're looking for? Is they want us to identify the items that could be funded by Rcdc?
Yes, that's exactly right. The one-time projects that would improve the park, and we consider this all a basic improvement. So maybe rather than that, maybe just noting those projects that will require ongoing maintenance. So the council has knowledge about that. But I think the council considered this entire project as an improvement project that could be funded by RCDC. And so this item is to make a formal recommendation to the RCDC to ask for funding.
Okay, so I'll just start by saying that I agree with council that this whole list basically could qualify as a capital improvement. There are certainly some things on the list that are going to require ongoing maintenance. So there are some areas where we've added irrigation. There are some areas where we're adding, trees and other plants and things like that. And of course, any areas where we're adding decomposed granite, landscape mix, gravel, etc. Over time, those need to be refreshed, as we all know. So, so is it more that they want us to identify the items that are going to require ongoing maintenance once this capital improvement project is complete?
Yes.
Got it.
And then another question is do we need to get bids to come out and do this? Because we compiled this off of Playscape's proposal to us. So how does that process work next to say, is this the right amount?
So we just hired someone. We interviewed, her name is Vicki Ballard. We interviewed her at the same time that we interviewed Nate Hart, but he had more experience as far as like water and wastewater and streets went. Vicki has experience in landscape design. In the past 8 years, she's worked for Whole Foods, which means she's a very hard worker. But her primary duties are going to be to take care of the park. And so I don't think we'll need the full $30,000 that was proposed by Cleanscapes, but this gives her a clear path on what she needs to do. And so the request to RCDC will just be not to exceed $30,000, and then they would just be paying for materials.
Thank you for that clarification. That's great because
Sure.
Again, we only had that one bid to come in and work off of. So we certainly want to be judicious in how our funds are spent once they are approved. And we wanted to also, if any way, obviously city staff could be able to help with some of these smaller items. That's fabulous. That way we're just being mindful of where the dollars are being spent.
So I guess the question is just what's the best way for us to communicate the information that council would like to see regarding ongoing maintenance?
I guess if you just delineate it out to the side, I mean, the package you put together is wonderful. They were very complimentary of how organized and detailed it was, and I think it's going to be great for Vicki to come in and execute. So just maybe a little notation out to the side that this is going to be an ongoing maintenance item.
Okay, so we can just go back into that, the exceptional item request document and highlight. Okay.
Yeah.
And are they asking for us to like quantify what the ongoing maintenance is, or just to identify that it will require?
Just identify that it's ongoing maintenance at this point. Yep.
I think we can handle that, Nicole, right?
Victory!
Yeah.
Yay!
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay. And I guess that brings us to item number 9, discussion of Playscape mulch. So I did go down and look at the Playscape mulch. I know there are requirements for how deep it needs to be. I don't know if we're inside that it looked like the mulch looked good to me, but you know, so I don't know what further.
Could you clarify? I thought we funded about $11,000 worth of Playscape mulch. Is this different than that? I'm just curious. Can you clarify the two situations of what we're discussing right now? Thank you.
This is to make sure we're maintaining that level. And so this would just be to, if it had gotten below the, I think we're required to have 9 inches. Yeah, just to make sure that we're at that level.
Okay.
Oh, and then, sorry, I should have brought this up when we were talking to the last item. If we could have a park commission member present this project list to the RCDC, I think that'd be helpful. Also do want to clarify that if RCDC decides not to fund this project, it is funded by the city. So it's funded no matter what, but they were hoping we could approach them for this.
Nicole, do you want to get with me and David, and we can just decide which one of the 3 of us wants to do it, since we were the subcommittee working on it?
For sure. That's great.
Okay, great. So we'll get back to you.
Okay, we'll get you the details too.
And as far as dealing with the mulch, is that going to be handled in the same way, or is that entirely different? I mean, to me, that's something where somebody in maintenance needs to go out and measure if we're in compliance with our mulch, and if we're not, then order it and put it in there. So.
Yep, that's what we'll do.
Okay, great. And then the last item is park financials through July of 2020. It's just a report. I guess perhaps we need to have a motion and a vote on whether or not we approve that. I don't know. What do we do with that, Amber?
No action is necessary. It's just, and no discussion is necessary. It's just on there for your information.
I did want to clarify, if possible, page 21 of the agenda packet that relates to the donations for the pet pavers.
Yep.
The expenditures, and this might just be that it's not fully updated, but it looks like it's last updated through August 18th. The invoice that I had received and then forwarded on to the city for the pavers was $912.34. And it's only showing costs of $283.99. Brick and Stone is the company that provided those pavers. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, that's all.
We should try to get that fixed.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
Okay, all right, and you know what? I'll just forward you the invoice email again, if that's helpful to just get it back to the top of your inbox. Is Amber, do you want it, or should I send it to Abel, or both of you?
Send it to both. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
I'll send it to Abel if I have his email address. I'm not sure.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right.
Okay, so with that, I think we have run through all of our items. If there's no objections, then somebody needs to make a motion to adjourn. And
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
there's a motion by Nicole, seconded by Colleen. All in favor, say aye.
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 I think we're complete. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you,
sticking
team.
it out. All right.
Thank you.
Talk to
Bye.
you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.